This is an 8-iron, and it's a dead shank.
Wow.
Way right.
Oh, takes a hop
shank.
off the path.
You got to be kidding me. Very tough pitch shot right here. You got to hit it into the hill. One hop up and bite, and it's in.
Kind of like that.
Well, I would like to welcome to the Sub 70 podcast the most recent winner of the majors on the Champions Tour, the Regions Tradition, Doug Barron, three-time champion. Has to sound pretty good on that tour. Doug, thanks for coming on, I should say, and congratulations on that victory, man. Majors are tough to win, and you have.
Man. Yeah, it was definitely a cool week, Jason, and thanks for having me on today. I appreciate you.
Well, let's talk about the journey a little bit. 23, I was looking back at the stats, off to a hell of a start, and then sounds like injury kicked in, and sort of what was that like to have that start, then it's taken away, and then what kind of work did we have to do to get ready for 2024 to kind of get to this moment?
Yeah, it was interesting. I did get off to my best start ever. My first tournament in Morocco was terrible, and then kind of got my feet wet, and I finished fifth in Tucson. I made 9 birdies in the final round. I can remember because I was like, man, I'm playing really good. And then the next week, I led going into the last day of Newport Beach with Bernhard, and I played. It was a really miserable weather day, and Ernie Els was probably 4 or 5 holes ahead of us, so he maybe got a little bit better of the weather, and I missed a 6-footer to not go into a playoff, but I played really well that day. Just some days you have it and some days you don't, and it was just hard to make birdies coming down the stretch. And but that week my left elbow was killing me, and so I was carrying everything with my right hand, and by the end of the week, my right elbow was killing me. So by the time I got to Palm Springs, I was in like 13th going into the final round, and I literally couldn't even swing the club. And I went home for 3 weeks and tried to get better. And then I came back out and played Houston and played one day. And I was like, man, I went and got an MRI and found out that my left elbow was definitely torn and needed surgery. And I had that done, I would like to say immediately, but I had a series of things happen that made it difficult. I ended up getting a blood clot in my right arm doing curls. And so I was a month late getting that surgery. In the meantime, I had my right elbow MRI at the same time because it was hurting so bad and it wasn't torn. And fast forward 4 months after the surgery, when I was able to start chipping and putting, my right elbow started to flare up and I never could practice for more than 2 days in a row. And finally I MRI'd it and it was torn. So it was an interesting comeback, and it's still right now I feel like I'm only comfortable with about 2 weeks because it gets pretty sore, but I have great people that are working on it all the time here in Memphis, and I get relief, and I've learned, and I went to a different orthopedic in Phoenix as well, and he said if you can live with the pain, I don't think you'll injure it anymore. So that's kind of what I've been just trying to manage this year, and I've found something in my putting, and then my golf coach has found something in my swing that have just made things come together. And then, boom, last week happened. It was pretty cool. So,
yeah, I mean, I was looking at the trend line for 2024, and you had like a nice 3-week run up to this. So, and I know you talked about that in the interview, kind of, post winning the championship, of like you guys found a couple things. And I know you used to coach guys, right? When you weren't on the tour anymore. You used to be. Yeah. So how does that work now that you're the student?
Years.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
How, is it interesting to have someone look at you, or can you still self-diagnose, or how does the teacher become the student, and how does that work from, I guess 2 parts. How does it work with you now being the student from these guys? And then what did you find? Because the trend line was working. You started playing some really good golf.
Well, the first thing that happened when I started back earlier in the year, I started back earlier than I should have probably because I've been exempt since I've been out here on the Champions Tour, but I wasn't exempt and I wasn't in the invitationals, and I started looking. I'm not going to get in much if I just don't force myself to start. So Tucson I knew was going to be ugly. I tried to find a mini tour event to play before then, but there weren't any available. I called 3 different mini tours. So I went ahead and just played Tucson. I ended up having like a good first round, but almost finished last. But I was not playing a tournament in almost a year, 9 months or so. And I started, when I went to ping, I told him I'm so weak because I wasn't able to lift, and I'd just gotten weak from not doing much with my right arm, especially, that I went to graphite shafts. And after about 3 weeks of it, they were much easier to swing, but I was starting to get stronger. So after I finished 12th in Dallas, I called my wife and had her FedEx my steel shafts to Atlanta, which is ironic, and I finished second and first in the last two. We'll get to that, but the graphite shafts and the combination of the irons I was hitting, they weren't putting enough spin on my short irons. I was hitting good shots. I'd end up 30 feet from the hole, and I was like, man, when I get to Atlanta, if I don't have a little sharper iron game, I'm going to shoot 100 on some of because there's a lot of precision iron shots in Atlanta. So it was a smart move. I'm still not as strong as I was when I quit playing, but at least I can play with my steel shafted irons again. So that was cool. And then back to the coaching part, I see my coach, Sean Webb, if you're on social media, Athletic Motion Golf, they're I think they're the best teachers out there. But Sean and I have worked together for 7 years. We do a lot of our stuff on FaceTime. I actually flew down and saw him earlier this week. I only get to see him a few times a year. And then I have my good friend here in Memphis, Jonathan Fly, that helps me a little bit with my putting. And he touched on something after the week of Atlanta where I finished second. And I just putted so good in Birmingham. It was a good feeling because I thought I could win. When you're putting good and been hitting it really well, it was just a good it's fun when that stuff comes together at the same time. So pretty cool.
Did Greystone set up well for your game from the start? I know it's a pretty demanding golf course. It's tight. Was it a golf course that you were comfortable on right away when you started playing in that event?
Yeah, so I've played in it 3 times, and I've trended pretty well. I've gone from 16th to 9th to 1st. So, yeah, I've gotten more comfortable with it as I've gone. But the first year I played really well, but I had trouble with a couple holes. And you can – it's not necessarily tight. There's just out of bounds on both holes every side. So, I mean, you have a little room. But I think Patrick had commented that, every hole is like, you can – every hole is kind of a disaster if you spray one offline, but it's not tight if you're driving it well. Like the first 3 rounds, I literally hardly missed a fairway, which was very fortunate. And then the last day, I couldn't hit a fairway the last 9. I think the nerves and all the stuff was starting to get to me a little, and I had hit a bad drive on the 8th hole that should have gone out of bounds, and they never talked about it. But that's the tournament. That's the hole that really won me the tournament. I hooked it terribly off the 8th hole, which is one of the tighter holes on the course. It was going out of bounds. It hit a tree, came down. There was a root in front of me, so I couldn't even punch it towards the green. So I took this 7-iron and hooked it like 50 yards from 170 and punched it. And Ernie, he said, "Oh my gosh, that was incredible." And I got it like 5 feet off the green and got that up and down. And that was really, I turned a triple bogey possibly into a par. That was really the hole that I was like, man, if I can just hang on, I'm doing so many good things, even though my driver is not perfect, I can still be fine. So it's so crazy when you look back at the little things that win you golf tournaments. And that was the hole that won me the golf tournament, I will say, because I didn't necessarily drive it good the rest of the day. And but I was fortunate enough to be able to make a par every hole if I needed it. So.
Is that where the experience pro comes in? Of you've won out there before, you've played the PGA Tour, you've seen a lot, and sleeping on the lead and knowing, okay, you're comfortable now in this position, and also when you don't have your best stuff on a final 9 to win a golf tournament, is there that well to dig deep into that you've got so much experience at this point professionally that it's a situation that, even though you might be a little uncomfortable because you don't have your best stuff, you still know how to manage your game with all that experience?
Well, I know the course, and I like the course. I would tell you I never really led at all, hardly, on the PGA Tour when I was out there. But on this tour, I've led 4 times going into the Sunday, and I've been successful going into this past tournament, 2 out of the 3. Joe Durant won the one at Ally when Bernhard and I led going into that Sunday. And I would just tell you that people, I would rather always be in the league because at least you can make a mistake. I always tell people, and still have room to catch up when you're behind. You have to force some things. So I told Lauren Roberts, my dear friend, on the way home, who won 14 times, I believe, on the Champions Tour, 2 majors. I told him on the way home, it's the first time I've ever seen like the Hall of Fame type guys try to do stuff they weren't comfortable with, and me putting the pressure on them. It's the first time in my career I've ever seen that happen. And I'll just tell you, Ernie Els and Patrick Harrington are both just amazing people and amazing players. I mean, Patrick didn't have his best stuff that day, but he hit some of the most amazing little chip shots, and it's just so fun watching some of the greatest players in the world. You still have to admire what they do. And Ernie birdied 8 and 9, and I was like, oh no, he's getting to get hot here. I just gotta, kind of keep my composure. And then he, unfortunately he 3-putted 10 and 12, but I mean, he was playing pretty well. It's just that course. It's a demanding course. It has a lot of the iron play. There's a lot of demanding greens on that course, and if you don't hit it in the right part of the green, it makes 2-putting very difficult. So I would just tell you, I feel like I always like to be in the lead. It's better than chasing, just from my past experience on the PGA Tour. So anyway. Yeah,
and obviously something's improved, right? I mean, you're winning
sure.
at a pretty good clip on the Champions Tour, and I always say this with like the utmost respect to anybody who played the PGA Tour. Like, you still were on the PGA Tour. You're one of the best golfers in the world. Yeah. There's a lot of experience that comes from that, but you have found, because it's the same guys you're playing against then. You must have found something in your game that you're a better player at. What am I trying to say? To get the job done, to get it over the hump, to win. You're winning at a pretty good clip. So it's always interesting to see, like, well, what's the difference between when you were playing on the PGA Tour to today? Because Act 2.0 has been pretty damn good, Pro. It's been pretty damn good.
I would tell you this. I taught for 7 years. I never really aspired to play the Champions Tour. When I fired myself from golf, I had 5 shoulder surgeries. I never really got my game back. I tried 3 or 4 more years on and off the Corn Ferry and never got my game. I had two young boys at the time. I needed to be a father. I needed to support my family. I never really thought of the Champions Tour. I was pretty happy and content being at home teaching, even though people say what they want, but teaching takes its toll when you're giving 1,000 lessons a year. It takes its toll on you as well. I didn't have an indoor facility, so I was outside all day. And in the wintertime, we can still teach here in Memphis, not quite as much, but I was teaching at a pretty good rate. And I also got into another business that helped me as well. But I would just tell you that I never really aspired to play the Champions Tour, but I would start practice. I started practicing, and I had a couple guys that helped me with my teaching. Jeffrey Smith, in particular, and Joe Mayo. They both kind of helped me at the time. They were helping me with my teaching of golf, and I started hitting it so good, I decided to go play like one of our state opens. And I hadn't played a tournament in 6 or 7 years. I went and missed the cut, but I was like, man, I'm still swinging pretty good. I need to go try to play another tournament. And every now and then I got to be about 48. I told my wife, I said, I think I really want to play golf again. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And I wasn't necessarily the happiest person when I played the PGA Tour. I beat myself up pretty good. I was pretty hard on myself, and I think 7 years out of the game gave me a whole new perspective. Getting onto the Champions Tour in itself was a miracle. I didn't have any status, so it was going to be a long shot at best, and I kind of knew that going in. But I got to playing so well that I remember my first practice round when I went over. I told my wife after I played for 6 months, I saw where I turned 50 the week of the Senior British Open. I said, well, I'm going to go over and Monday qualify for the British Open. I turned 50 on the Wednesday, so I'll be good to go. And she's like, okay, whatever, and I went over there and was medalist. And I mean, I remember being so nervous. Me and Dickie Pride played Joe Durant, Scott Perrell in a practice round, and we had a great time. But I was more nervous in a practice round, just playing with my peers again. I was like, man, this is so cool just to be out here again, playing with guys that I played with for a bunch of years. And I mean, that was when it all started, and I just couldn't believe it happened. And I ended up almost winning my first tournament. I was actually tied for the lead with about 4 holes to go, and I made 2 bogeys. I just hadn't been in that arena in so long, and I wouldn't say choked, but the wind was, I was playing the round of my life on a really windy Sunday, and ended up finishing 5th, but it was a pretty good start. And so and then I was fortunate enough to win my very next tournament. So it was cool. So.
Yeah, and I know the work you did, which I think got you ready is competing against those young guys on some mini tour stuff and staying
Yeah.
competitively sharp, right? And because you said it's so hard if you just, even though you played the PGA Tour and you played a lot of events, shutting it down for 7 years to just get back to that competitive mode, you have to get in the arena.
Well, I averaged 75 for about 3 months. I mean, it was hard. You know, you haven't played tournaments, and I wasn't making any money. I was just trying to get experience again. And then I went and played my friend's tour down on the Emerald Coast, Gino Solano's mini tour, and maybe there weren't as many guys. Maybe there was between 20 and 30 guys playing every week, and all of a sudden I popped up and won one. And I was like, oh, you still got to get through the nerves of winning. It doesn't matter how many people are playing. And I ended up winning 3 out of the 5 that I played right going into turning 50. So it was literally just a perfect storm of events. I had a ton of confidence. I got started playing. So when I did decide to play when I was 50, I got started a little bit later because my father has been sick. He's still alive. He has Parkinson's dementia, but I thought we were going to lose him there for a while. They had put him into hospice care, and now he's been in hospice care for 6 years. So long-term hospice care. And so it's been a miracle that he's been around, but he still knows who I am, and I go visit him quite often, and he's close to the house in a nursing home. And so I started about 6-7 months later than I wanted because I just didn't want to not be there for him. And but we still have him with us, so we're doing good. But yeah, the playing the mini tours, if I wouldn't have, my buddy Frank Licklider told me that was the best decision. He said, I played the Corn Ferry Tour and got my brains beat in every week. You going and playing a smaller mini tour would have helped. It was probably the best decision I've ever heard anybody make. And I thought that was good because I can't beat 150 guys that are in their 20s anymore. I mean, the length and there's too many variables in it. It's just like, when Patrick Harrington's on with his game, the probability of me beating him aren't that good. I can only control what I can control. When he's out driving me by 60 yards and hitting it straight, it makes it very difficult to win because he can wedge it and putt it as well. So you just have I just did the math, and I said, well, I can maybe get some confidence playing against not maybe as many people. And that's the way I did it, and it worked out pretty good. So I was very fortunate.
I would say it's worked out great. So here's a feeling most all of us who love golf will never have. But what's the feeling? I mean, winning's incredible. But what's that feeling like when they hand you a trophy from a major championship and it's yours? What's that
well,
like?
It was I was just so I've you've seen me celebrate a little too much when I won Calgary. That was just unexpected. I never thought I would win being 2 down with 3 to go, but I had to work so hard the back 9, and when it was over, it was just mentally and physically, I just was out of gas. And it was just, it was overwhelmingly happy. My sister, I have twin sisters, and one of my sisters was there with me, and one of my students that I taught as a kid, him and his wife were there with me, and it was just very joyful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the work, man. It's
I
all
can
that
honestly
work.
say it was just, there was a lot of energy that came out. It was very humbling. And man, when you looked at the leaderboard to start the day and you saw Steve Stricker and Ernie Els and Patrick Harrington and KJ Choi and Charlie Wee and all these great players up there, to come out on top was really amazing. Any tournament you win, I think they've all meant the same to me because I never won on the PGA Tour, but to win a major against all these great players, it was a great feeling. And I mean, I kind of thought of myself as the movie Miracle. I may not beat these guys but 1 out of 10 times, but today I did. So it was really, really a cool day. So.
And the next morning you get to see that trophy and it's still yours, right? It's not
Absolutely.
a dream. Yeah.
It is like a dream. Yeah. I'm actually going to pick up my green bicycle today at a bike shop that they sent to Memphis and had it put together, so that's pretty cool.
Does that get you 2 years now out there? Because
No. I believe it gets me in Hawaii for 5 years. It gets me in some of the majors for a few years, 5 years. It gets me in some of the invitational tournaments for 5 years and a couple other tournaments. But no, it's still just year to year. I need to win a couple more times to maybe, I don't really ever think about it. I mean, my mentality since I've been out here is keep winning, keep finishing in the top 36, whatever you have to do. That's the only way I'm staying out here because I don't have enough career money. So I have to keep that pedal to the metal, and that's why I took this week off. Quite frankly, my elbow is really sore. My back was actually sore, so I thought I would get it worked on and get fresh again and go do it again. So I didn't think I would be competitive if I went up there this week, and yeah, I have to keep finishing in the top 36. I'm exempt the rest of this year, fully exempt. I'm fully exempt next year, but I need to continue to finish in the top 36 myself until I win a certain amount of tournaments to maybe, if I were to have a bad year, to get in every week. So I really just kind of focus day to day, especially with this elbow injury. My right elbow hurts a lot. I manage the pain. I don't like to talk about it. I don't ever talk about it during a tournament, but I don't know if I'm going to have to get it. I had a non-invasive surgery on the right one, because if I would have had a surgery on the golfer's elbow side, there's so many tendons in there, and it can be a lot longer recovery. It can be up to a 9-month recovery, and then they can't guarantee that there's not nerve damage and stuff. So I just decided to do a non-invasive surgery that went in and kind of just scarred it up and cleaned it up. And, I've had a couple of friends actually that have had this same thing done, and they're pain free. I just haven't been able to get rid of the pain part yet, but I am strengthening it. So, and I have a guy here in Memphis, 2 guys that have been working on it, and they're both good at what they do. And, I get pain free at times, but, I feel like one day I'm just going to wake up and it will be pain free. I hope that'd be cool. So, but if not, I'm going to deal with it as it goes. So yeah, to answer your question, I need to keep finishing the top 36. I need to keep winning. And that actually takes the pressure off of me, because I don't really have a choice, but to go out and play aggressive every week. Because if you go out and play conservative against these guys, if you see the scores, they'll run over you every week. These guys know how to make birdies. I mean, Ernie drives it so well. Steve Stricker does everything well. Stephen Alker, I mean, look what he did on Sunday. He's up there literally every single tournament. It's just amazing. So there's a lot of really good players out there right now.
I've always said I think it's underappreciated how good you guys still are. Oh, these guys are 52 years old or whatever. Well, okay, go grab that golf course from 7,000 yards and go shoot 15 under par for 3 days.
I think what people don't realize, sorry to interrupt you, is that I don't think they realize how long of golf courses we do play. Like last week was 7,200 yards and wet. I mean, that was what people don't realize. They think we're out there playing 6,400 yard golf courses that are firm and fast. It's really, it was, I remember talking to Grant Waite before I got out there. He goes, "Oh, just get used to hitting your driver and your 8-iron." And I was like, "Oh," he says it's not very long, but I mean, we have a couple courses that are under 7,000, but for the most part, they play us pretty long on these golf courses. And I have a theory about it. I think they try to weed out some of the older guys, and then the newer generation, like Chad Campbell, starts next week. I mean, they're starting to get and Patrick came out. All the guys that are starting to hit it really far. I mean, it's basically, I mean, we don't play as long as the PGA Tour, but it's definitely not. It's kind of the same distance I played when I was on the regular tour, so it's been longer than I thought it would be personally, and I hit it pretty long. So that was an eye opener to me, how long they play the courses. So
yeah, and like you said, even par or 1 under just gets you ran over, right? Like it's the pedal is down on that tour from the start. You have to make birdies.
Yeah, and you just. What I tell myself, I try not to compare myself to all these guys. I mean, my good friend David Toms and Shane Birch is one of my best friends. We all play matches every week and have our games. But when you start, I try to, my motto lately, because I've been hurt and I'm not back to 100% yet, is just play the best Doug Barron can play. And my best may not be as good as some of these other guys, but if you can just get in the 68 mentality. I just remember David Toms and I played on the same college team, and he shot 68 every single day. He was a first-team All-American. So I kind of keep that mentality. And you don't have to shoot 65 every day, but if you can at least shoot a 68, it kind of takes the pressure off. And if you just get in the mentality that, figure out your places on the course where, hey, how can I shoot 4 or 5 under a day? And that seems to be what Steve Stricker and Stephen Alker do so well. And Stephen Ames, I can't leave out all the Stevens. By the way, my first name is Stephen, and I told I told them that I'm changing my name back to Steven and not my middle name, so that would help me win more. There's no doubt, because the Stevens have literally dominated the tour for the last couple of years. So
They've been on a
crazy
heater.
how much they've won. I mean, Stephen Ames has won so many times, I've lost count. So
yeah, another player, like, he's getting close to 60 or 60, but it's almost like he's improving.
He is 60. Yeah, he won the week he was 60, and then Steve Stricker won 7 times last year, I think, and then if he wasn't winning, Stephen Alker was winning. But me and Stephen Ames are the only two that spell our name correctly, and that's with a PH. That's the only way to spell Stephen. So, anyways.
Well, with the win, and does it change goals? I mean, obviously you're trying to get healthy and fighting that, but does it change goals for the rest of the season on the Champions Tour? Is there anything now that, I mean, you're freed up mentally a little bit more? Does it feel like, when healthy, like the pedal is just going to be down, or how does it change the year from this win on?
Well, it's given me the choice, so I can just go play 2 in a row and a week off and keep my elbow maybe a little fresher. I do have goals. I don't necessarily like to talk about them because I don't like to put pressure on myself, but there's a couple little goals I have, and I definitely want to be in contention again. I mean, winning is contagious, and it's a lot more fun when you're in contention than when you're in 30th place, I promise you. And so I just want to keep putting myself in position. I'm swinging the club nice. I'm really putting well right now. So I'm excited to go play in Des Moines next week. They've redone the course, but I've played really well there, and I like that course as well. So you got to drive the ball really well, and the greens are really nice. It's a nice tournament, so I'm looking forward to it. So,
well, last one I got for you. Golf is changing on the major tours with Live and trying to make it work, and the PGA Tour, and they're trying to find their way. And on the Champions Tour, you've been out there a few years. Is there anything you would like to see to the Champions Tour to try to make that product even better than it is, or anything that you guys are talking about that, as golf is evolving, that could be brought to that tour?
Yeah, I think we have a great product. I think the feedback that we get is our Pro-Ams are a lot more fun than, per se, the PGA Tour. And I'm not knocking any of my younger peers, but, I don't think we all take ourselves as serious as some of the younger guys. You get older, you get a little more laid back. Our product's a great product. Me personally, I'd like to, if I had it my way, I'd like to play. I wouldn't want to play on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I wish we played earlier in the week where we were the highlight. And I've always said, we could be we would get a lot more TV time. We could control how we got more endorsement money. We wouldn't necessarily have to play for more money, always be asking, can we get more purses? I don't think our purses will ever go up now that the tour's leveraged itself so much with Live. And I think Live's been a positive. And I think people should be thanking Phil Mickelson instead of berating him, because he really was right. Now the PGA Tour's paying these guys what I think they deserve to be paid. And I can remember keeping my card in 1997. I was the happiest guy in the world. I made 21 cuts. I tied Billy Andrade for most cuts made at that time for a rookie, and got on the Rookie of the Year ballot. Stuart Sink won it, but I made a whopping $198,000. I tell people all the time, if you played 8 full years in any major sport like football, basketball, baseball, you could retire. I played 8 years and I had to go to work. And I kept my card 5 of those 8 years. So I'm really happy for the guys on the PGA Tour that they're making the money that I really pictured that they should always be making. As far as the Champions Tour, I think we have a great product. I think our Pro-Ams were most of the guys, I'd say a big percentage of the guys are great to play with, and we show up a lot for social functions with them, and the fan seems to have a good time. I think we have a really, really great tour. I'm very fortunate to be out there, but a lot of the big name players are just super individuals.
Yeah, and I think that is from knowing some of the guys in the Champions Tour, you understand, hey, if the sponsor wants you at a cocktail party to say hi to people, or making sure those players in that Pro-Am have themselves a day and tell everybody about that experience, right? And you're helping them out, and you're personable, and you're answering questions. There's a lot more pressure on the PGA Tour, I'd have to imagine. Like, I imagine just how you were younger on the PGA Tour during a Pro-Am. You're still trying to get some work in. You're trying to focus. Yep. And the Champions Tour should be about making sure those clients or the clients of the sponsor have a great day, right? I mean, that's that focus.
There's no question. And also one thing I realized, while I still want to win golf tournaments, and no matter how many I win, people want to see Ernie Els. They want to play with Patrick Harrington. They want to play with Steve Stricker. It's just David Toms. I just thinking of my buddies. But I mean, it's about them. I mean, they are the legends that make that tour, and I'm just fortunate enough to be along for the ride. And I get that, you know, they're mainly the focus. Your Miguel Jimenez's. I mean, they're just great guys, and that's where the focus should be, because that's what makes our tours. We have, I mean, literally legends. Bernhard Langer, how can you leave him out? I mean, just literally legends that have played the game. I mean, heck, I stalked Bernhard for a year. I just want to see what he did every day, you know. But it's just amazing people out there, amazing players. To see the careers they have had and still want to be competitive is amazing to me. I mean, I'm baffled by it. So it's just, you know, when you compete your whole life, it seems like that's all you want to do, I guess. So that's being out of the game. I was able to kind of refocus and get my competitive spirit back. So that's been pretty cool.
Well, you keep winning majors out there, you're going to get more people asking to play with you on that Pro-Am.
That's right. Well, I hope so. I hope I'm fun in Pro-Ams. That's my goal. When you get older, you try to make it about the person, and that maybe not as much about yourself. So, anyways.
Well, thanks for coming on. Like I said, I'm so happy for you. I know from our previous conversations, like the work you've put in to get to this level, and it's really cool to see a player like yourself and the work that it took to achieve this level of winning, and you should be really proud. It's been fun for me to get to know you a little bit and watch that journey. I was so excited for you to pull this one off, and it's a different level when you're winning majors out there. So congratulations,
man. I really appreciate you, and it was a special week I'll never forget. You know. So
well, enjoy this one. Get healthy. Keep looking at that trophy. You earned it, bro.
That's right. You got it. Thanks for having me.